Welcome to Enochs Corner. This here now our fourth episode. My name is Sky, your host, and here we have Daryl and Terry, our co-hosts. How's it doing?
Oh, too good. Yeah.
Everyone's doing pretty well by the looks of it. And it has been quite some good days with some very interesting developments.
Yeah.
But digressing really to our main theme, what we're after here.
Truth. We're after truth.
And really, it seems like we're approaching it, at least one portion of it.
Yes.
The beginnings of everything, like what we were reading through on our last episode, came in really deep on the happenings of the beginning and how that threaded into even current history on most things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be very difficult for people, I think. The prime starting point that maybe the listener would have to come to is that we're talking about getting science, so to speak, out of your head, which is so difficult for the 21st century person, because science is all. We run on science. Our food is controlled by science. Our education systems are controlled by science. We teach science. We have science medication. Science tells us the way and how it is, and has become our high priests.
And even on some levels, science is technically designing us to a degree.
Yes.
With all the research into genetics and stuff like that.
Yes. And so without being too rude, perhaps we should just go to science. And that might offend people, but at this stage, I don't really mind because I think it's too late in the day to start playing and pussyfooting around.
If you can't say things directly, well, go somewhere else.
People have an opposite
opinion.
opinion.
Comments, and if anybody wants to.
Yeah, I mean, by all means,
question
anything
that,
and
or
everything we say is all questionable. I mean, even we
Absolutely.
don't know whether what we're reading is right or wrong. At the end of the day, you
That's
will
right.
never know that until you're there.
Because we don't say we have the truth. We say we're searching for it. So I wouldn't be so audacious to say, now, everybody out there in YouTube land, you listen to us. I don't think so. You'd be absolute. That would be so silly. Don't listen to me, for goodness sake. But at least listen to what we're reading. Make up one's own mind about what's going on here. Are these books true? Are they authentic? Or does science sound far more authentic with its Big Bang? Yes, that sounds feasible to me. The universe being formed in less times than it takes a cheese sandwich. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. That beats the 7-day routine, doesn't it?
Well, shall we get into finding the truth?
Yeah, and it
That's
makes me
it.
feel so good that I was a leech in a swamp. That warms my heart.
And with a bit of that sarcasm there, let's just make our now fourth episode begin.
Okay.
Now, as of our last one, we pretty much ended up discussing everything on the regardings of Chapter 10 and Chapter 9 as well. Shall we start from there, maybe just give us a quick recap on Chapter 10? And
Recap. Yeah. And of course, if you've got comments about this recap, or you want us to go back over some of these things, because we realized even just prior to this to this episode that these things can go much deeper than what we are covering them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can take, with our combined knowledge and all the different external aspects of things that we know of, we can very easily expand Chapter 10, Chapter 9 to
Yes.
what? Hours on end worth of conversation.
Yes. So anyway, there's apologies for if we haven't gone deep enough. But if you want deep, then please put a comment in. And yeah, we can backpedal. We can go over stuff again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if the public becomes agreed on, we can even organize a live Q&A.
Yes.
Where we'll have a chat up and we'll be asking questions. They'll be asking us questions. We'll try to answer them. We'll try to get answers out of everyone else.
Yes. Yes. Okay, shall I read? Chapter 10. Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One, spake and sent Uriel the son of Lamech, and said to him, Go to Noah, and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, Bind Azazel, hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert which is in Dudael, and cast him therein. And place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. And to him ascribe all sin, and to Gabriel, said the Lord, Proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, and the children of the watchers from among men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days they shall not have. And no request that they their fathers make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf, for their hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said to Michael, Go, bind Semyaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, until the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison, in which they shall be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from henceforth be bound together with them to the end of all generations, and destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end, and let the plant of righteousness and truth appear. And it shall prove a blessing, the works of righteousness, and truth shall be planted in truth and joy for evermore. And then shall all the righteous escape, and shall live until they beget thousands of children, and all the days of their youth and their old age they shall complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be tilled in righteousness, and shall all be planted with trees, and be full of blessings. And all desirable trees shall be planted on it, and they shall plant vines on it. And the vine which they plant thereon shall yield wine in abundance. And as for all the seed which is sown thereon, each measure of it shall bear 1,000, and each measure of olive shall yield 10 presses of oils. And cleanse thou the earth from all oppression, and from all unrighteousness, and from all sin, and from all godlessness, and all the uncleanliness that is wrought upon the earth destroy from off the earth. And all the children of men shall become righteous, and all nations shall offer adoration, and shall praise me, and all shall worship me, and the earth shall be cleansed from all defilement, and from all sins, and from all punishment, from all torment. I will never again send them upon it from generation to generation, and forever.
And this is pretty much up to where we left off.
Yes. And just a little add-on, chapter 11, and in those days I will open the store chambers of blessing, which are in heaven, and so as to send them down upon the earth over the work and labor of the children of men, and truth and peace shall be associated together throughout all the days of the world and throughout all the generations of men. And I just realized that blessings, because he's got to open the store chambers of blessing, I don't think that is metaphoric. I think that blessing is a commodity, as in it's actually a tangible, a tangible, not a trade, a tangible gift, yes, a tangible inheritance.
Which isn't necessarily just one. It could be many.
Myriad. And because it's so much, in fact, it's got to be kept in a store chamber. Chamber. Oh, right. Sorry. Chambers, plural. Sounds pretty good to me. All right. Chapter 12. Before these things, Enoch was hidden. No one of the children of men knew where he was hidden, and where he abode, and what had become of him. His activities had to do with the watchers, and his days were with the holy ones. And I, Enoch, was blessing the Lord of majesty and the King of the ages, and lo, the watchers called me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go, declare to the watchers of the heavens, who have left the high heaven, the holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women, and have done as the children of earth do, and have taken unto themselves wives. Ye have wrought great destruction on earth, and ye shall have no peace, no forgiveness of sin, and insomuch as they delight themselves in their children. The murder of their beloved ones they shall see, and over the destruction of their children they lament, and shall make supplication unto eternity, but mercy and peace shall ye not attain. And Enoch went and said to Azazel, Thou shalt have no peace. A severe sentence has gone forth against thee to put thee in bonds. And thou shalt not have toleration, nor request granted to thee, because of the unrighteousness which thou hast taught, and because of all the works of godlessness and unrighteousness and sin which thou hast shown to men. And then I went and spoke to them all together, and they were all afraid, and fear and trembling seized them, and they besought me to draw up a petition for them, that they might find forgiveness, and to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven. And for from henceforth they could not speak with him, nor lift up their eyes to heaven for shame of their sins in which they had been condemned. Well, then they wrote out their petition and the prayer in regard to their spirits and their deeds individually, in regard to their requests that they should have forgiveness and length of days. And I went off, sat down at the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, to the south of the west of Hermon. I read their petition until I fell asleep. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell down upon me, and I saw visions of chastisement, and a voice came bidding me, I to tell it to the sons of heaven, and reprimand them. And when I awaked, I came unto them, and they were all sitting gathered together, weeping in Abasayel, which is between Lebanon and Senseza, with their faces covered. And I recounted before them all the visions which I had seen in sleep, and I began to speak the words of righteousness and to reprimand the heavenly watchers. The book of the words of righteousness and of the reprimand of the eternal watchers, in accordance with the command of the Holy Great One in that vision, I saw in my sleep what I will now say with the tongue of flesh, and with the breath of my mouth, which the Great One has given to men, to conserve therewith, and understand with the heart, as he has created and given to man. The power of understanding, the word of wisdom, and so hath he created me also, and given me the power of reprimanding the watchers, the children of heaven. I wrote out your petition, and in my vision it appeared thus, that your petition will not be granted unto you throughout all the days of eternity, and that judgment has been finally passed upon you. Yea, your petition will not be granted unto you. And from henceforth you shall not ascend into heaven unto all eternity. And in bonds of the earth the decree has gone forth to bind you for all the days of the world. And that previously you shall have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and ye shall have no pleasure in them, but they shall fall before you by the sword, and your petition on their behalf shall not be granted, nor yet on your own, even though you weep and pray and speak all the words contained in the writing which I have written. And the vision was shown to me thus. Behold, in the vision clouds invited me, a mist summoned me, and the course of the stars and the lightnings sped and hastened me, and the winds in the vision caused me to fly and lifted me upwards and bore me into heaven. And I went in till I drew nigh to a wall which is built of crystal, and surrounded by tongues of fire, and it began to affright me. And I went in to the tongues of fire, and drew nigh to a large house, which was built of crystals, and the walls of the house were like a tessellated floor made of crystals, and its groundwork was of crystal. Its ceiling was like the path of the stars and the lightnings, and between them were fiery cherubim, and their heaven was clear as water. A flaming fire surrounded the walls, its portals blazed with fire, and I entered into that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice. There were no delights of life therein. Fear, it covered me. Trembling got hold upon me, and I quaked, and I trembled, and I fell upon my face, and I beheld a vision. And lo, there was a second house, greater than the former, and the entire portal stood open before me. And it was built of flames of fire, and in every respect it so excelled in splendor and magnificent and extent, and I cannot describe to you its splendor and its extent. Its floor was of fire, and above it were lightnings and the path of the stars, and its ceiling also was flaming fire, and I looked and I saw therein a lofty throne. Its appearance was as crystal, and the wheels thereof as the shining sun. And there was the vision of cherubim. And from underneath the throne came streams of flaming fire, so that I could not look thereon. And the great glory sat on thereon. and his raiment shone more brightly than the sun and was whiter than any snow. None of the angels could enter and could behold his face by reason of the magnificence and glory, and no flesh could behold him. Flaming fire was around about him, and a great fire stood before him, and none around could draw nigh him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, and yet he needed no counselor, and the most holy ones who were nigh to him did not leave by night nor depart from him. And until then I had been prostrate on my face, trembling. And the Lord called to me with his own mouth and said to me, Come hither, Enoch, and hear my word. One of the holy ones came to me and waked me, and he made me rise up and approach the door. And I bowed my face downwards. And he answered, and he said to me, and I heard his voice, Fear not, Enoch, thou righteous man, scribe of righteousness, approach hither, hear my voice, and go say to the watchers of heaven who have sent thee to intercede for them, you should intercede for men, not men for you. Wherefore have ye left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, and taken to yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants as your sons? And though ye were holy and spiritual, living the eternal life, you have defiled yourselves with the blood of women, and have begotten children with the blood of flesh, and as the children of men have lusted after flesh and blood, as those also who die and perish. And therefore have I given them wives also, that they might impregnate them and beget children by them, that thus nothing might be wanting to them on earth. But you were formerly spiritual, living the eternal life, and immortal for all generations of the world. And therefore I have not appointed wives for you. For as for the spiritual ones of heaven, in heaven is their dwelling. And now the giants, who are produced from the spirits and flesh, shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. And they shall be evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. And as for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth shall be their dwelling. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offenses. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. From the days of the slaughter and the destruction and death of the giants, from the souls of whose flesh the spirits have gone forth, shall destroy without incurring judgment. Thus shall they destroy until the day of the consummation, the great judgment, in which the age shall be consummated over the watchers and the godless, and yea, shall be wholly consummated. Now as to the watchers who have sent thee to intercede for them, who had been aforetime in heaven, say to them, You have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you. And you knew worthless ones, and these in the hardness of your hearts you have made known to the women, and through these mysteries women and men work much evil on the earth, and say to them, therefore, you have no peace.
And that is quite a piece, actually, if you think about it. Because all of what we've seen up to the minute basically treats on the punishment that were given to the fallen for the actions of what they did.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We shouldn't be studying evolution. We should be studying, this is our primal origin. Our primal origin is not swinging in the trees. Our primal origin is the fact, and we've got to get, well, this is a battle that I've had personally, is starting to understand the situation that we are in. The situation being is that there are two distinct sets of people, and these people have become integrated. And what Most High is doing is sorting them out, the wheat from the tares, the sheep from the goats. But there's a process in doing that, and this process is going to take about 6,000 years, and possibly and likely it's nearly done.
And not only that, but I mean, it's also the fact that it's declaring for the sons of the Watchers that they'll, at least up to that point, they would have no forgiveness, and their cycle of life would remain on Earth.
Yeah.
Just over and over and over again.
With that statement, I can now understand why the second race would be so angry, so vicious, so maleficent, because there's no hope. It's all been cut off. They can't go back. End of story.
And that's what they're most aggravated about. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how technically evil the Sons of Watchers were, really it's not their fault that they are where they are. But their punishment was totally different than to that of the Watchers themselves.
Okay. Yeah. Can you define that a little bit more? Just fill that out.
Well, even in the sentences before, it's stating to the Watchers that their punishment is to watch their sons suffer.
Oh, yeah.
Over and over and over again until the end of time, pretty much.
Why? Why?
Because they're the ones that put them there.
Begot the sons, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they do so bound in chains underneath the ground with a mountain on top of them, pretty much.
Yeah.
Nothing they can do about it.
No. That actually gives me it's a difficult feeling to describe. It's not I feel sorry for it, but it even makes me feel heavy.
I might feel somewhat sorry for the very original ones, but only up until the point where they turned vicious.
Okay.
They had a choice not to behave like an animal. They had that choice not to behave like an animal, and what did they do? They went and ravaged half the earth at that point.
Yes. Yeah.
The punishment that they have of living on earth, they brought that on themselves.
Yes. Not trying to break away from our theme here, but I'm just going to ask you a question. The beast. The beast is an animal, right?
The beast can be whatever really you want it to be.
Okay.
The beast
is not man.
But it can look like the best of men, the most attractive of women.
The beast, though, has the personality of viciousness.
That's right. But it also has the intelligence to back it up.
Very dangerous.
If you get, for example, say a serial killer.
Cunning, in other words.
If a serial killer is just a slasher,
Yes,
he'll be caught very, very quickly.
that's right.
But if a serial killer becomes a serial killer after being a total professional in some form of a trade like that,
Yes,
that one in particular is extremely hard to spot, is extremely hard to find.
yeah,
And the beast, while you can call it the beast, at the end of the day, is but that. He's a professional at what he does.
and so one could up front come to an idea that we're all here with a pack of serial killers that have been trained for aeons in cunning.
Now, whether they can remember that or not, just because they've been absorbed in their own cycle
Okay,
of doling down,
okay.
they dole down without discrimination whatsoever.
So the demons are caught in a generational cycle as well.
They're caught up in their own little game. Because at this point, I don't really think they have the ability anymore to discern from one to another.
Right.
If you take, for example, the accounts of the Tower of Babel,
Yeah.
they couldn't. After that, they wouldn't even. They couldn't even understand their own writing.
Yes.
They all had different languages. They were all sent, or what was left of them,
Yeah.
was all sent to the different corners of the earth.
Yeah.
Since they went through such an effort to look like men, they, in most occasions, unless they are very awake, can't really discern in between one or another,
No.
unless the other that they're looking at emanates something from themselves.
Yes. So, if we're all here in this dimension and all around us are serial killers that have at least some modicum of cunning, at least they have intent, even if they haven't got the brains to fill it out.
Okay.
What stops us all being slaughtered like sheep?
Some say, some places will say that as Most High has his plans, so do they.
Yes.
In most senses, if you were to think of their plan as making themselves passed in the most convincing way possible as Most High,
Yes.
then it would be inconvenient for them to behave like a rabid dog.
Yeah.
Because their ultimate goal is that they want the throne. They don't really care how they attain it.
Yeah.
Now, if they end up convincing the entirety of humanity that they are Most High, or at
Yes.
least they are the only way to Most High,
Yes.
then yes, they've pretty much accomplished exactly that.
Yes. A couple of reasons, or possibly several I could think of, is that, yeah, as you say, they're not out there just to go and just kill everybody. They want the throne. They don't want particularly.
That's right.
They don't care the blood that they spill, but nevertheless, it's the throne that is their prime.
It's the throne that's their prime objective, and a throne with no one there to adore said throne is no throne at all.
Exactly.
So
That's pretty empty,
They want
isn't
us
it?
to worship them,
That's right.
not Most High.
Exactly. And another possible reason in the whole scenario is perhaps the guardians, the guardian angel, that would tend to come in on our behalf when there's malice bent against the children of men. That's another reason I can think of, and yeah, I'm open to discussion on that one for sure. On that, yeah.
Well, say at this point, the two races are that mingled in between one and another that it's really hard these days to make a difference. It's actually really hard these days to spot a man.
Right.
It is rare to come across a man.
Right.
It's like in certain countries, there are that many immigrants from the outside of a country that you can rarely recognize the own people of the country. In that same sense, they themselves have had their bloodline doled down so much
Yeah.
that they don't recognize any difference. To them, none of this exists. To them, it's science, for example. They're blasé to a lot of the encounters in between all the different forces that are at play in this world.
Yes.
So they can very well turn around at this point and say, well, how do I know if I'm human or not? How do I know if I'm man, if I'm human? That can create a huge conflict within a person.
Yeah. I can imagine people's thoughts just at this point in time valve popping.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because we're going into the realms of not fairy tales, or we're not just discussing a fictional novel here. We're discussing how things are.
That's right. But as you said, for example, you mentioned a guardian angel.
Yeah.
You mentioned a watcher, because there are still watchers out there.
Well, we just read about it, didn't we? It said
That's right.
The watchers told Enoch.
Not all the watchers fell.
That's right. And that's what watcher is, isn't it? Watch over your little brother. Watch over mankind. Watch over
But
the
they
earth.
watch over mankind.
Yes.
Not over the human race.
Yes.
Therefore, a lot of the people that say, oh, my guardian angel will save me. What makes you think you have one?
You're saying that they're presumptuous.
No, I'm saying that they're naive.
Right. Okay.
If you act out of lack of knowing, well, it doesn't technically make you guilty.
Yeah.
But you're still guilty of not finding out.
Yeah.
These watchers here, it definitely says they won't be forgiven.
Yeah.
But now you're saying with all the, the race being mingled, it's not their fault. They don't know their background. So therefore, it's not that they can't be saved. It's not that Most High will condemn them eternally to condemnation. Is that where we're
pretty much? I mean,
saying here,
anyone, even under the right conditions, even Lucifer himself can be saved. Will he get to that point? Probably not.
Probably not.
But it doesn't really matter whether if you're man, whether if you're human. Under the right conditions, everyone can be saved. The only difference is that from the crucifixion onwards, all men were guaranteed salvation. Full stop.
That's right.
Past, present, and future, all of their sins were forgiven. But that was for men.
But then it also says in apocryphal writings and the canon in different books that even the stranger can be saved if they choose to serve Most High.
Bingo. If they choose to.
Yes. And the stranger being the other race.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can a human become man? Theoretically, yes. Can a man become human? Absolutely.
Okay. But it's quite clear that all can be saved since the cross through
That's
the
right.
blood of Jesus.
But the question is, do they have the will for that to happen?
Okay. Yeah.
Humans are inherent creatures of destruction one way or another. The only thing that the human race can do and do very well is destroy.
Ooh.
Whether they do it under the guise of creating or expanding or their own well-being, whatever. Destruction is destruction. I don't care how you paint it.
Yes.
Put a leather jacket on a pig, it's still going to be a pig.
Yeah, yeah. And hence, this is the, shall we say, the true Israelite, the true Jew, the true child of Abraham is man.
Yes.
Whereas the Gentile, Goyim, is the stranger.
True.
And so basically, okay, debate with me. If so, we have two peoples. We have the sons of Abraham, and we have the Goyim.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you say the word Jew, it has lots of more concrete connotations, and people think Jew. I think bankers. I think the Israel. I think the Zionists. I think no. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the Jew as came out of Judah.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with a religion or anything like that. It has nothing to do with how you dress, whether you wear a little black cap on your head or not.
All right.
There's no difference.
So you have two races here. You have the Jew, or let's loosen it up a bit and say sons of Abraham. Perhaps that's a better picture. The sons of Abraham, and then you have the Goyim,
which are the sons of the Watchers.
Which are the sons of the Watchers, the Gentiles.
Actually, it is the sons of the Watchers.
Yes, the generations.
That's right, because the direct son of Watchers were called the Nephilim.
Yes.
But it's their descendancy.
That's important. Yes.
It is their the descendancy of the Nephilim that became what could be called humans.
Yes. Yes. So, what's happening now is that there's good news, because Christ came for the sick.
That's right. He came to forgive those who needed forgiveness.
Now we're starting to get down into the awesomeness of this, because despite that their parents, their ancestors came and raped the earth, taught mysteries and sorceries that totally corrupted mankind, came to the point where they were the ones that were the motivation for flooding the earth and destroying it, and then had the gall to come back on the earth and do exactly the same thing again, as if you hadn't been taught a lesson in the first place. But they came back and did exactly the same thing again, and they've done nothing but mischief, mischief, mischief. Yes, they've often got a clout round the ear all for doing it, but nevertheless, it was mischief, mischief all the time. And after all of that, a way of forgiveness is opened up to the Gentiles.
Yes and no at the same time, because this group that started everything,
yes,
I don't think that forgiveness extends to them.
You're talking about the core group.
The core group itself.
And does that core group exist today?
Because oops, wrong one. Previous. Where is it that it says it as? I'm terrible at remembering the chapters. Here it is, right? And even in bold. Even though you weep, you pray, and you speak all the words contained in the writings which I have written. He's saying you can pray all you like. You can do all the good you like. You're screwed. It's as simple as that.
Right.
End of time means end of time, irrelevant of what comes in between now and that end of time. But otherwise he would have said, you're condemned until my son comes down. No, you're condemned until the end of time. Nothing is going to change that.
But that is clearly for those original
That's right.
left their first estate.
Which Peter says is, but as for those that left their first estate, there's a complete distinction in there. epistle of Peter there.
Yeah.
But the Gentiles, as in the progeny of product of thousands of years, that now are so hopelessly lost and in a state of complete amnesia, there is now a way open
That's right.
if they chose it. They don't have to suffer the sins of their father. Maybe this has got nothing to do with it, but that takes me back into them wandering around the desert in the Exodus, and they're saying the sins of the fathers shall be visited to the sons of the fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh generations. And so, but after that, it seems like the sins become, they tend to be wearing off. And so are we, I won't go into that. I won't, we could open a big thing on that. But, but it strikes me as there is a limitation to the sins of the original as it applies to the distant progeny in the future.
Well, wasn't there a part that we read that even stated that some of these things were to be put underground for 70 generations?
Yes.
So it was Azazel. What was the other one? Because there was two of them that got buried.
Well, we read it here in chapter 10.
In chapter 10 it was, yeah.
Yeah. And so we were discussing this a little bit earlier, and perhaps we should talk about it. You can edit it out later if you want. Yeah. But if Azazel is Satan, according to this, was buried, and also Simyaza.
Mm-hmm.
So two of them. So hang on a second. Hang on a bit. We've got two devils here. We've got two Satans. And then, of course, even though they're buried until the judgment, so they can't be on the earth, well, who fronted Christ then? On the Mount.
That's just the point. I mean, interesting thing. Devil is a human-made term.
Yes.
The term or race devil is never ever mentioned in first ancient texts ever.
Okay.
The Satans are.
As in plural, with an S on the end.
That's right. And it's also categorizing the first fallen as the leader of them all.
So the group is the leader.
That's right. Or more to the point, the group has a leader.
Okay.
And from that leader spawns the group.
So it's like a very sharp, pointy pyramid, you're saying?
Yeah.
So at the very, very apex of that pyramid is the original perpetrator.
That's right. Which you could call even the original sin.
And directly is not the absolute pinnacle, but now we have the capstone.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, we're getting very Masonic here, aren't we? Oh, dear. Okay.
You can even segregate the military in that structure. It's no different.
Yeah. But you have the very capstone, which encompasses several parties.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a dozen, maybe 24, I don't know.
Well, that's where you can start getting into the 12 generals of hell, for example.
Right.
Which encapsulates most of the ones that are mentioned today.
Right.
Was it the last episode in where we actually went through the names of them?
Yeah. And so what's happening then is this capstone encompassing undisclosed but only few numbers, they work as one mind.
That's right. The 12 generals are meant to work in a very cohesive manner in between themselves under the order of the capstone.
They work as one personality.
But they're many at the end of the day.
And so when Satan, for instance, fronts Christ, or anywhere else, like as in Job, for instance, then and it's and it's interesting if anybody reads through Job. I realized sometime that Job's friends, in the way that they were talking to him, and were actually demons.
Possibly.
And in the book of Job, all of a sudden, these three try and converse with him and convince him how he should just curse God and die. Just do it, Job, because you're a little rotter. So just curse God and die because you deserve it. And Job says, no, I don't deserve it. I don't. And so you do. Shut up. Just die. And all of a sudden, this character just comes out of the blue, who's a young man, and he says, you three, nick off. I'm going to talk with him because you're not convincing him of nothing. It's me that's going to talk to him, and I will convince him of his sins. So get lost. I'm going to talk to him. That was one of the Satans.
Yeah.
And that puts the book of Job on a completely different footing. Bet you didn't hear that in seminary school. Same thing.
Same thing, he says. Okay.
Staying out of that one.
Sorry,
Yeah,
all
me
you
too.
pastors out there.
Yep.
So, all right, I'm a feather ruffler.
Can't say I've ever been to either of them, so I wouldn't really know.
Yeah. So, shall we talk a little bit about what we've just read? Because that is pretty heavy and we're running out of time.
Well, really, everything that we've read up to this point pretty much gives the events of how everything came to be.
Yes.
And how everything ended up to that point in time.
Yes.
Because that was pretty much the final word of what happened to them. They are to be bound, and the children of the Watchers are to be staying on Earth. That's the end of that story.
Can we roll down the page a little bit?
Yeah.
And the entire portal opened before me. They're in a lofty throne. Its appearance was as crystal. And I think that this is really important because up to this time, Enoch was directly descended from Adam and therefore would be a totally authentic man.
Well, yeah. And it's also the reason why he could communicate with Most High as if someone was just on the phone.
Yes.
Anyone that was of men's line at that point in time had direct communication with Most High.
Yes.
At any point in time when they wanted to, all they had to do is look up and say,
Yes.
yo, what's up?
But even the Watchers knew they said, you scribe of righteousness. They said, when they addressed Enoch, they said, Enoch, you scribe of righteousness, can you petition?
You're one of the few left that can petition for it.
Yeah, so they recognised that. They knew that.
But they recognized that because they had forgotten who they were.
Really?
It's Most High, the one that said, you should be interceding for men, not
That's
the
right.
other way around.
That's right.
Yes, that's right.
Had they not forgotten who they were,
Yes.
they wouldn't have had to go to Enoch for that supplication. They could have made that themselves. And
Exactly.
Say, we screwed up here.
Yes.
Exactly, because they're sons, right? They're sons
That's
of
right.
God. They're sons of God. I mean, why can't you go to your father? Well, simply because they were really frightened. Really frightened. And they figured that somebody else, like our little brother who our father really likes, if our little brother goes to dad and sort of says, how about, old Tommy over here? Yes. Well, you know what he did, don't you? Yeah. Well, I'm asking you to forgive him. No.
Enoch, sorry, no.
But what really got me, and this gives awesome hope, because this Enoch was an authentic man. And right down in 24, verse 24, and until then I had been prostrate on my face. In other words, he's lying flat down and in a dead faint, trembling. And the Lord called me with his own mouth. Awesome.
He didn't send someone to call him.
Eternity called to Enoch. The most extreme called to the least. And he said to me, "Come hither, Enoch, hear my word." And one of the holy ones, who was another watcher, by the way, I'm pretty sure, came to me and waked me. And he made me rise up and approach the door. And I bowed my face downwards. And this next bit, in 15, and he answered and said to me, and I heard his voice, "Fear not." Now, I suppose if a person has read scripture or read writings, you can't help after a while to recognize the pattern, even with Christ, that whenever Most High approaches directly a man, a person, the very, very first thing is fear not.
That's right, because whatever insecurity you may have through fear, him saying fear not is just pretty much just blasting that fear out of you.
They're profound words. Those words, when I first read this book of Enoch, and just that sentence really stands out as a total landmark of this entire book, is that Enoch could approach the throne without any fear whatsoever, just as if he was in his father's house.
Whereas anyone else would probably become a sticker on the floor.
So that's what Christ came to do. He came to allow the Gentiles to be born again, not as sons of the fallen watchers,
but as sons of men.
Oh my goodness me.
And henceforth the term born again.
Yes.
Through the blood of Jesus.
So at one time you're a little demon, or of demon blood, somewhere, very likely. And now you're born again, all fresh, brand new on the table. Fear not, Enoch, thou righteous man and scribe. So he was writing books. Scribe of righteousness, approach hither and hear my voice. And then, of course, he tells the message, what he wants them to tell the watchers, which is not good news for the watcher.
Well, no, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still... The final message was always the same. You'll have no peace.
Yeah. Should we just go down to that? Because it must be pretty close to a wrap here. Look, we've got so much more. I mean, we can just go on.
Yeah, as I said, we can go on for hours on end on any given topic, but we do want to be able to go through all the different aspects of the text.
Yes.
And getting stuck on a single piece won't really make it justice. As we said, information, a little bit of information can be a lot more dangerous than the whole lot of the information.
Yes. Well, just harking back a little bit to what we were saying, is that that all around us is basically serial killers and miscreants that have got nothing but destruction on their mind.
Yeah.
Because it says here in the verse 1, okay, from the souls of whose flesh the spirits have gone forth shall destroy without incurring judgments at the time, and thus shall they destroy until the day of consummation. It comes to an end, guys. If you know that you're one of them out there, it comes to an end.
And it makes no difference.
Over the watches, the great judgment in which the age shall be consummated, over the watchers and the godless, that would be their children. The watchers being eternal, and whether they're in prison or not, are still around. The godless would be possibly their children, their progeny, down through the ages. And yea, shall be wholly consummated. And now as to the watchers who have sent thee to intercede for them, very specific group, who had been aforetime in heaven, they were actually living here, this was their property, this was their hangout, say to them, you have, past tense, been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you. What? You left home before you knew the deal?
Not only did they leave home, they became flesh.
Yes.
They went from being immortal spirits into being mortal beings.
Yes.
In order to do what they did.
With earthly problems and pain
And everything that
war
goes
and
with
destruction and the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you, and you knew, worthless ones. If anybody tends to read the scripture from Genesis right through, they'll see in several places, I can think though prominently in the book of Judges, where it says, and these were worthless fellows.
and
That gives you a clue as to who Judges is talking about at that point in time. Imps, demons that are trying to, you'll find them several times in the book of Judges. And these, in the hardness of your hearts, you have made known to the women, and through these mysteries, women and men, they've corrupted men, work much evil on the earth. Say to them, therefore, and this sends a shudder down your spine, you have no peace. And why that sends a shudder down your spine is because now you're constantly in torment. There is never going to be a time like ever.
This part that you read here, where it says, and through these mysteries, women and men worked much evil on earth.
Yes.
The mysteries were the partial secrets of heaven that the Watchers passed on to men.
Yes.
And through that, they made havoc everywhere, pretty much.
Give us an example of some of the mysteries.
Even some of the secrets mentioned there within astrology, things like that. Most of what you could consider magic these days,
Yes.
or sorcery, were once and still are part of the heavenly mysteries and heavenly secrets. They were never meant to be for men to use.
Quantum physics?
Nah, I'm talking about real magic, not speculations of magic.
He's rude, isn't he? Yeah.
No, we're talking about real things here, not things that people think that can be or could be. They can be or could be. I don't really care about.
Okay. the stuff that actually is happening, the stuff that actually works.
Give me what is and
Yes.
what has been.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, perhaps it's time to wrap.
You want to call it a day for now?
Yeah, that's got me all stirred up.
Well, further on from this point, it delves into a different topic up to that.
Yes.
That we've been reading up to now. As I said, what we have up to this point is the end of their punishment, or more to the point, the beginning of it.
Of the judgment.
Of the
Anyway,
judgment.
The proclamation
Therefore,
of judgment.
More than that last phrase of "you shall have no peace," there's really not much more that needs to be said about it.
No. So we're talking about total history here. This is how it happened. This is why there is so much destruction on the earth even to this day. That's why your politicians lie to you. That's why the people that educate you lie to you. That's why history books lie to you. Is there any truth?
The truth is that most is a lie.
The truth is in seeking and knowing Most High.
Yes. That's right. That's right. I really think that that's why Christ said, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added to you. Because, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, see if you might agree, here is that as a person starts to seek, one is endowed with certain properties that resonate with truth.
Well, yeah. Curiosity being one of them.
And as truth, even though you might only get little grains of sand of it, enough grains of sand and it starts to form a shape. And you go, all right, that's interesting. And so it starts to get bigger and bigger. And pretty soon one is shocked and amazed at what comes out. I'm shocked and amazed, and I haven't even just started. I only got a couple of grains of sand.
But we'll leave it up to there for the minute for all of our audience. As we said, leave all your comments. If you have questions, ask them. By all means, feel free to send it to our email. We'll always have someone monitoring those emails. Eventually, we will have Facebook running, so that way we can have a little bit more of interaction. That doesn't necessarily depend on YouTube.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And have yourselves all a nice day.